Perfect.
Hello, Dr. Patrick. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hello, Patrick. Great to have you.
Hi.
Very exciting
That's
topic.
our pleasure having you with us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
We still have the music.
Yeah.
Just for me or for everyone? Oh.
You hear music?
Sorry, I didn't. There was an interruption. Maybe you can go ahead. Can you say it again?
Can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you, but
I hear you very
yeah,
well.
we have a technical
Perfect
right now. No, we had a overlap. I think
Okay. So we can start. Just let us introduce Dr. Patrick for our audience. Then we can start the conversation about AI monetization. AI everywhere now, but when we talk about monetization, how we can make revenues, how can AI be part of our source of income? That's a very interesting topic. But let me start with a very quick introduction about Dr. Patrick is an expert in the AI, R&D strategy, monetization, and quantum computing. And he is a professor of artificial intelligence at Deggendorf Institute of Technology. Thank you, Dr. Patrick, for being with us. I know you have a very solid and very important background during your last 13 years full-time working in the AI and artificial intelligence. It makes you have a lot of thoughts, a lot of value you can bring to us and our audience. Please feel free to share more knowledge about yourself, about your background, then we start the conversation.
Yeah, again, hi everyone. So I've been in AI for the last 13 or 14 years full time, and AI has changed a lot. So 14 years ago, there weren't that many people working on AI, and then maybe 5 to 6 years ago, it became more popular, and a lot of people tried to enter the field. But a lot of that work was about building prototypes. But now playtime is over, and you cannot just create costs, but finally you need to earn money using AI, and that's why I'm happy to talk about this today. And so what I do is I do teaching, I do research in AI, but I also run my own consulting business and help companies to leverage and monetize AI. And at some point, I noticed even if you have really cool ideas, you need more than that in order to eventually build AI that works, because you also need to look into the regulatory and political landscape. So I also got involved in political advisory to help politicians to get an understanding about how AI works, that it's not dangerous. So clearly focusing on the benefits
Burn.
in order to build a fruitful ecosystem.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a topic like during the last talks and lives and podcasts we've done, like all the time in every different topics, like monetization gets back in. So we're very happy like to get a deeper dive in with your expertise and how to monetize. I like the what you said, like it's not time to play anymore. Now it's time to monetize. We're not anymore in the, yeah, we're in the phase where there has been a huge gap. We're not, yeah, playing with it, but we're really seeing like all the business model that can exist around it. And you'll talk, of course, you'll get deeper, but it's so wide and interesting. And we're at this stage now where the landscape is trying to get a little bit more structured. As you were saying, like the research, it's ongoing, but we're able right now to monetize and have like all this kind of business model around AI. So I'm really looking forward to all your great inputs, Patrick.
Yeah, that takes us to the most thing we always being asked by our clients, and during our previous sessions as well, regarding the use of AI. The AI is there to help us being more productive, to solve some of our challenges and problems, but it's not easy to define how can AI being as well source of revenues, how we can monetize using AI. Would you explain to us what is the meaning and definition of AI monetization as a start?
Yeah, well, it means generating revenue and hopefully also profit through AI. And I think one thing that is very important is, and a lot of people don't do this, is when you start working on an AI project. First of all, you need metrics to measure how good or bad you are currently in your process, and then you want to improve that metric or key performance indicator. So you need to have something that you can measure eventually, whether you have improved or whether you have not improved. And a lot of companies aren't that great in actually measuring how good or how bad they are. So you need these metrics before, and then you invest on the AI. And eventually, you will have improved something like more revenue, maybe cutting costs, speeding up certain decision times, and then you can try to measure whether you have actually improved and whether you have made money out of it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's
And yeah, go
yeah.
ahead,
Go
Dean.
ahead. No. I was just saying like that's what we put in place also in the Canva. We came up with this AI implementation Canva, like a business AI Canva. And you're right, that's one of the things, the key metrics. What do you measure? And basically, you went over it, like the three things we can like that talks to everyone that they can measure. Yeah, it's efficiency and time. Do you get revenue growth? Because sometimes AI can help all that in that. Can it help like customer experience? So in that way, you're right. You can find an entry point, or how can I monetize this even more, and how can I get return on investment on that? So
Yeah,
that's a good
and
point.
that's another point as well. Sometimes when we say the AI is very good tool or technology to utilize, use for profitability, for revenue generating, for even cost saving. But the following question always comes up: how we should do this, or why we should prioritize the AI in our business strategy. What do you think, and what your advice for businesses on how and why to set some priorities for the AI utilization in their coming few, not years, but I think we might think months now, due to the accelerated updates happens in the AI area?
Yeah, so monetization is key because eventually, as I said, playtime is over and you need to have a measurable return on investment. And building AI sometimes may be super expensive. And then if you get nothing out of it, you have a problem. But building AI is not always super expensive. There are also use cases that you can implement very easily, and then maybe still they generate lots of revenue. But I think there's a lot of misunderstanding also in the news. Like in some newspapers I read that companies don't earn money from AI, they only spend. Well, the clients I work with, it's quite different. Actually, they are generating more revenue, or they have massively cut costs using AI. And also here in Central Europe, what we see is we have an aging and possibly also shrinking population. So it's not just about maybe doing things faster, better, cheaper, but that you're actually still able to do some of the work if the workforce is shrinking. So, and here AI is key, and companies need to seriously look into AI strategies and put monetization and profit clearly at the forefront.
Yeah, and that's on what you're saying. Like people like think or AI is for big corporation. That's what you were saying. Like, okay, yeah, big corps I think spend a lot on AI to put like complex system in place, even their own model, by the way. I think on some part, but it's also, we have to say that AI is also accessible to smaller companies, to SMEs, to even like startups to use it. So we, as you were saying, like you don't have to think big. There's a small implementation that can have like so big results on what we put in. And also like, yeah, doesn't, the cost doesn't has to be so high. So that's what we're always looking for, like as we say, you know, like some quick wins or whatever, but try to think like that and to make understand, yeah, it's not only accessible for big corporation. And regarding this, Patrick, what do you like? How do you see AI like across like some industries? Do you have some examples of monetization on some, like few? If you have few examples on some industries that you helped with or implemented, like to give like accurate example.
Yeah, for example, one of my customers that I worked with, they have software for call centers. But also in call centers in the Western world, we are facing a lack of talent. And they not only receive calls, but also lots of emails. And answering all these tickets is super expensive, by the way, because you need to put people on this. And that company that I work with, they sell this software to other companies, call centers, service centers, and so forth. And actually, we integrated LLMs, mainly calling ChatGPT, but also other LLMs would be possible, to answer a lot of these emails. Not all of them can be ultimately answered, but most possibly with most customers. And just one call to ChatGPT with a lot of tokens is in the range of cents or even less.
Yeah.
So it's insanely cheap. And if you can, I don't know, automate 80% of the ticket answering with that, finally, there's massive impact on your financial situation. And I'm allowed to talk about this because I also wrote an expert review for my customer because they had a management buyout and were looking for investors, and they had posted my review also on the internet. So I'm allowed to talk about this. And the work they did, I think, is terrific. And it's one example, but I've obviously worked with many other companies, always with the goal of doing things faster, cheaper, better, generating more revenue, and especially now with all these cloud tools that are available, like ChatGPT, you don't have that many costs up front. Yeah, you need to develop maybe your AI, but eventually doing these API calls, and they cost just cents or even less, is insanely cheap, and you get a lot in return. So using these hyperscalers, something that you're unable to beat if you run all of this on premise, for example.
Yeah, that's the big, and even in that space, I know like there's Mohammed will like that. There's also these AI, of course, call centers. Like I don't know if you went through it, but there's also even this vocal AI voice that's coming in very fast, and that works better and better. That you can even like step up, level up on this kind of implementation. And just a short not just to switch from industry, but like we're talking about monetization on what you're starting to say, Patrick. It's just not getting having a business model behind. It's the monetization of like cost efficiency, which is a way of monetizing the AI. It's just not to make to sell it to a client your solution around AI, but inside your own company, how you can, yeah, if you could decrease time or efficiency on it, that's where you gain some money. So it's a way to monetize it, right? Do I get it? Do I get it right on all what you're saying from the beginning, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing. That's exactly as well. That even helps to fasten the showing the value of AI. It's not taking like weeks or months to start show like building POC or building MVPs using AI now. It's a matter of days or might be hours if it's something simple. Instead of building something from scratch, AI comes to accelerate things. But this, because of the accelerated updates and changes that happens in the AI scene now, there is a debate between the people who are talking about monetizing from the AI. Do we more focus on the AI based products or the AI service based things? How do you think the difference? How do you think the difference between the AI as a service and the AI as a product, and which one do you think it's more scalable, or might businesses or startups need to focus on now at this time?
Yeah. Well, you're addressing two totally different problems. So it's hard to give advice what to focus on because it depends on the use cases. But AI as a service has the beauty that obviously you can serve a lot of clients very cheap at the same time because all you need is more space in the, or more resources in the cloud. Well, if you put AI into, or AI as a product can mean a lot. Either you would sell the actual software, but this is less and less common because we mainly now use software as a service. But if you put AI into actual physical products, into machines, devices, cars, whatever, and that obviously is super important too, but you would put it into physical products which are more expensive than just copying a piece of service. So probably the AI as a service is the more scalable one, but it doesn't mean it's better than the other one because it just addresses totally different use cases.
Interesting. And that's one of the concerns. Even when we discuss the potential or the growth or the direction for the AI, if today if we decided to build an AI based product, might be after a few days or might be hours, OpenAI or Google decided to release a new model that do the same. That means the product and the business in a very high risk now. That's the same concept you're saying, that the AI based services could be the thing to avoid this kind of risk to build something, and at the end the big giants provided something very very simple and quick for people to start use and kill your business. Is this
Yeah,
right?
I think
Do you think?
it can also happen to AI as a service. But yeah, the innovation cycles are becoming shorter and shorter. And as
Yeah.
we saw, for example, DeepSeek appeared a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and more people noticed it. And we saw a major impact on this in the news. And since then, many new things have happened, by the way. So it's, I think, very exciting times to be in AI.
Yeah, true.
And airspace. Yeah, it goes to like a point that I like that you said, and you repeated. It's not the playground anymore and all that. How do you see like now all this R&D that has been done? Because at the end, for experts or in AI is not so new. It started. If you take the history of AI, it started a long time ago. Like even the LLMs, it's not. But for people mind and also for companies, it's growing so fast and it's implemented right now. Like how can you transition, or how will be the transition between the research and development, the R&D of AI, and really like the to revenues, to make revenues out of it? Like, are we in the moment now? How are we going to switch? Because we know in a lot of space, and also for me on what we saw during the years, on not a struggle but a thing to be aware of, like is in the innovation. There's a innovation and the switch and the gap from research and development to revenue, it's not something easy. So, and I think even for me, it's the hardest part. You can innovate, you can create the product, you can all, but now we need the landscape has changed, investment. We need to get revenue out of it. How do you see like that gap is coming? Are we at the moment right now, or what's your input, Patrick?
Well, what I see with R&D is, in particular, academic research. People keep working for years on new papers in which they propose ever better models that maybe just come with slight improvements, and you would need to spend a lot of time and money on this, and you get maybe very little in return. Yet, if you maybe just spend one extra week on data cleansing and then retraining your model, you may have a much bigger impact. So this is something that I think you need to totally switch if you come from R&D, and R&D is important. But when it comes to commercialization, maybe you need to act much quicker and do maybe steps that wouldn't be the steps you would be doing in R&D in order to commercialize, because sometimes it's not always just about the best model. You also need more data, higher quality data, and having that may perform far better than a slightly better model that was very expensive to build. So I think that's super important. And then reuse AI solutions wherever possible, be it open source models, be it what is offered by cloud vendors like AWS, IBM, Google, whatever, and build services on top of that. So you don't need to build everything from scratch, which is, again, expensive and doesn't necessarily lead to the outcome that you want. Use what's available and build something on top. So that's my clear advice, and try to set yourself apart from the others then.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on data as cleaning, because we talked about like cleaning data, have like clean data, and that's a mislead a lot of people also. That's very important, and we faced it, like we're implementing for client customers. Like we need, and we say it all the time, we need data. And I think I know he's here. I'm telling he's watching us now, and we have a great friend of us that always says no data, no AI. So I'm taking his tagline. I know you're hearing, and yeah, but that's so important, as you were saying. Also, this part on the R&D, you can work on all the data, like cleansing the data and all that from the research. Now we need to get revenue, but we need these things to build something on the top of it.
Yeah. That takes us to a very important point, which is the challenges. What do you think the biggest challenges that companies and businesses face when they try to monetize AI, and how do you think they should overcome these challenges?
Yeah, well, your AI needs to improve something. Like for this, we need KPIs or metrics that I mentioned before. But then it really needs to add something, because no one is willing to just pay more for a service or product because it includes AI. It needs to have some tangible improvements, and then people are willing to spend. So, and if your AI doesn't finally do anything better in the product or service, no one is going to pay for it. So you only have costs. That's important. And then, I mean, there's a lot of strange stuff I recently see. Everyone wants to use LLMs for all sorts of tasks that they are not made for, and you need to spend a lot on the training and running them. If you run them on premise, for example, you need to buy a lot of hardware. But for LLMs, they're not a silver bullet. That's important. They will not ultimately solve all your decision problems. They are helpful for a certain class of problems, but are not helpful for most other machine learning problems. For example, some people keep trying using LLMs for forecasting, and it just doesn't work. There's, for example, Valeri on LinkedIn, he keeps posting for this all the time. And for forecasting, there are well-established methods that are cheaper and better. And LLMs, they are helpful for certain problems, but not for all possible problems. And that's something that a lot of decision makers have not really understood, and they keep spending and spending and don't get much in return. So you need to be able to pick the right tools. And oftentimes that's very simple machine learning models, like maybe decision trees or a naive Bayes, because deep learning is not generally better than all the other stuff. It's helpful for certain problems like vision or speech, but not generally better, because that's also what the no free lunch theorem says. And then oftentimes maybe you need to spend very little and you get a good decision tree or some Bayesian model and it works extremely well, and you keep costs low, and it may even work better than a deep neural network that costs far more but doesn't work eventually. So that's something that people need to understand. But one challenge is, like, a few months ago, I met Stuart Russell at a conference in South Korea, and we talked about this kind of stuff. So Stuart Russell is one of the famous authors of AI, a modern approach. And he said he just keeps teaching deep learning in his classes now. And I said, yeah, but we also need to teach the traditional methods. And Stuart said, if he taught the traditional models, students wouldn't like it. But I said, it's not about whether students like it. Eventually, they need to be able to pick the right methods. Sometimes that's deep learning, sometimes that's other approaches. And eventually, you need to be able to pick the right method. So in my teaching, I address both traditional methods as well as deep learning methods.
Yeah, so true. That's it's so interesting you say that, because about the challenges, because we face it often, and with our like engineering team and like this new word AI engineering team and all the buzzwords around AI, when clients comes to us, and you also, Patrick, they ask if they want AI, and they want AI everywhere. But sometimes we, like, technically speaking, we realize that it's not a model to put in place. It's just data analysis, maybe an automation, and it will work. That's a challenge between like the buzzword versus and making the clients understand, or the people that wants to implement that. No, it's a word, you want it inside it, but don't. The challenge is to make them understand. Maybe it's not the best solution, and it doesn't mean it's going backwards. It just mean we have all these tools in our industry to use, and sometimes you're right, Patrick. LLM is not the best, or implement big models is not the best ones. It's just data analysis. Give us on it. Yeah, very interesting challenge. So we all have the challenge. So
that's capitalizing on this. It's part of any kind of the advice and consultation we provide. Always, it's good. You need to any business or any individual, even, you need to utilize using the AI. But if the AI does not add value for you at this time, here are two things. The first thing, in the future, AI might provide you with something. That means AI now is not satisfying your need, but in the future it might be. But in the future, it could be like next week. Now, not like next year or after 5 years. The other thing, AI attracts a lot of people to think more digitally, to digitize their business, and it's a very good chance even to digitize whatever we're able to digitize using AI or not. At the end, we need to solve the problem, whether the AI was a tool to solve the problem or just an Excel file or some very basic technology we can use.
Well, I totally agree, Mohammed, and I see that a lot of professors at universities don't teach this. They purely teach methodology, but then eventually first of all, you need to bridge a gap from methodology to prototypes. That's already challenging, and I need to bridge another gap to commercialization, monetization, and that's something that I teach at my university. So I started my professorship 5 years ago, and I was a manager in industry before. And I felt, we need all these very technical courses. And for example, I really love all the maths in my computer vision course, for example. It's lots of fun, and students need to know this, but they need to know more. So we do projects, how they build prototypes, but then I set up a new course that I called Innovation Management for AI. Because 5 years ago, when I started my professorship, I looked around what other people teach, and I only saw these very technical courses and maybe some introduction to business. But introduction to business is simple, like some accounting and marketing, but I didn't see these courses tailored to AI. And then I saw AI introductions for business students, but they had a very strong business background and they learned some of the foundations of AI, also not the bridge that I was looking for. And then I established my course, Innovation Management for AI, in which I talk about all these challenges, what you need to do in order to commercialize AI, KPIs, which roles you have, how to do consulting in AI, regulation. That's something we'll also, I guess, discuss soon. And if you're all curious about my course, just search my name, Patrick Glauner, in YouTube. You find all my courses from university recorded that I have uploaded there, including the innovation management for AI course, in which I share lots of best practices, how to identify AI projects, what to look into, or when you should use AI, when you should not use AI. I think that's probably super important as well. Always use your human intelligence first, and then the artificial intelligence and regulation, lots of other stuff. So take a look at my course on YouTube. And 5 years ago, I didn't see anyone else around the world teaching such a course, and I established it, and the students are super happy. And those who have then started a startup or now work in industry, once they have credited, they all are very happy with this course, because in order to make a career in AI, you finally need to know more than just building models.
Yeah, so we'll go.
Very
I'll
true.
go there.
You
Yeah,
nailed it.
you got
It's very smart,
excited
by
to
the
go and
way.
check.
Yeah, it's not about when to use AI, it's when not to use it. That's very smart.
Yeah. Yeah, and also it's right. Like as I was saying, like we were saying at the beginning, like Mohammed and I are very business focused and have models sustain. We called it, like, that was in the previous season, like create sustainable models, and we need to create sustainable business models around AI too. It's because the fun part is to, as you were saying, like research and development, or if you make it simple, ideation, prototyping, we come up with a AI tool, and then but the gap is, how do I really get real money out of it, because this is the way it will be sustainable for my company or for my startup or whatever you're building. So I'm glad you're raising that, Patrick, and you're focusing on your courses and lessons about that, because this needs to be spreaded and not just be academic. We're in the space where, yeah, we're not in the investment bubble anymore. We're really on the, I would say, hardcore moment where, yeah, like almost the grandpa models, $1 is for $1. So what I'm going to build for AI, that's my KPI. I invest this. Yeah.
When I wrote about that course 5 years ago on LinkedIn, there was even a lot of criticism. People said this wouldn't fit into the university. Just sharing best practices was not very helpful. But I think it is helpful on top of the very technical skills. I mean, the technical skills are key, that you know how to build all these models. And as I said, I really love maths and algorithms, but we need more, because if we don't teach more, we are eventually preparing, I think, today's students for tomorrow's unemployment, because playtime is over. Those who are now graduating, they need to know how to commercialize AI. And I got a lot of criticism 5 years ago that I was teaching something like this, and it just sounds absurd to me. And we as universities, we need to also look into commercialization.
Great. Yeah, continue to spread the word on that, Patrick. We'll be your supporters. Because it's very, 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 very important to spread that word. Continue, please. We'll support you. At least we'll support you on that. And it goes to, I wanted to get back a little bit more on data. How can, like, same thing? How can because a business, like even small or big, like they all have the data. So we know that the data was the new gold, or the black gold, we would say. And now how can you use these data as AI and create revenue streams? Like, can you have, like, maybe it's in your academic courses. Sorry, I didn't watch them yet, but I'll go on it. But if you can do a quick recap on it.
Yeah, well, eventually machine learning is garbage in, garbage out. So just having the data as such doesn't necessarily help, because you may need more data. You may need to cleanse your data. You may need to aggregate data from different silos. So what I see is now, when obviously adding AI to existing processes in a company is challenging, because a lot of these existing processes, say in procurement or sales or R&D, when they were established, they were never meant to be AI driven. Then when you try to add AI, you have lots of issues with the data source. You can fix that, obviously it can be done, but I think what's even more important is, when you create new processes, think them about AI first processes, if AI could be helpful for them, because then maybe you collect and store your data in a way that is more helpful for the AI later on. And don't underestimate the work you need to spend on cleansing and aggregating data, because I also talk about this in my innovation management courses. When you study AI, you think you're going to do all day long, just, training models, coding models. But eventually, this is maybe 10% of the work of a data scientist, because you have a lot of preliminary work, collecting data, aggregating data, cleansing data. So this is probably something you're going to do a lot of time. So that's why for new processes, make sure that you think about AI first. So maybe collect your data and aggregate your data early on in a smarter way. And there are, obviously, when it comes to collecting data and exploiting data, there are also ethical considerations and regulation. Just because it's possible, it doesn't mean that you're supposed or allowed to do it. Like especially when it comes to data privacy, when it comes to copyrights, when it comes to data of humans, and you try to assess humans. That's something that is not possible in a lot of jurisdictions, and that's why make sure that you also consult with lawyers early when you start exploiting data, because data is important, but there may be copyright, there may be data protection that could get you lots of trouble.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. You almost replied it, but what would be your advice on that? Because it's a big topic all the time, like the ethical considerations. Like if we need to get out one thing to keep in mind, what do you think would be like on the
I
ethical side?
personally, I'm not very happy with the term AI ethics. I don't think it means anything, because there's not that one ethical framework all around the world. Say, if we have these, very difficult decisions in an autonomous car, and it would have to choose whether to whether like it could pick between two people to survive, an old person or a young person. We in the Western world would favor the young person. Well, if you go to China, maybe vice versa, because there's a particular respect to elder people. So I think ethics depends a lot on our norms and our culture and our society, and that differs all around the world. That's why there's not that one AI ethics thing, I think so. And I think a lot of people who use this AI ethics tag are often not from AI, and they often tend to scare people with all this ethics stuff. I'm more driven by laws. We need to check what's we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and I think that's quite clear in a lot of jurisdictions. And then, yeah, we need to bring stakeholders together. Obviously, like I've seen strange stuff. I can share a story here. I was invited a year ago by two brothers who build farming machines, and they employ thousands of people. And they told me the first thing is, we employ, that many thousand people, and we want to use AI to cut the workforce into half. And that was their vision. I said, well, it doesn't work this way. In Germany, worker councils and unions are super strong. You won't be able to make it happen. I said, you won't be able to introduce AI against the unions or the worker unions, or unions or worker councils. Rather, let's convince them and say we can double our business with the existing workforce. To me, that sounds far more positive. And then, in addition of that, we have fluctuation, we have people retiring, the workforce will be shrinking anyway. But don't you? If you scare people, it makes people unemployed. They will be against it, and then you will not be successful with your AI project, because you do need the input of the domain experts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, very. It can be a whole topic. The laws, the ethical. I like the way you say it, like the entry point. Yeah, it will be also driven by laws. It's for me. It's still at the premise. Like it's going to move. In some countries, it's getting settled. But I think we'll see a lot of change in the future and in all the laws that's going to come in the.
Yeah. I think big part of it as well culturally in across regions might some regulations or some ethical stuff related to Africa. It won't work for North America that not match the South American or European cultures. For culture is a big aspect that might drive this kind of definition of ethical AI. But this takes us to another point that it could be related, as and you mentioned yourself, Patrick, as well, the regulations. How do you think the AI regulations in Europe or even globally can affect the monetization strategies, and what companies should be aware of to be ready with whatever is coming or the coming updates and news?
Well, the AI Act is the European AI regulation, and what I see is it may have a good intention, but eventually it just does not work because it's 400 pages of rules that no one is able to understand. Even the lawmakers don't know what it means. So, and it's even unclear what AI is in that whole framework. So the legal definitions don't fit. And so a lot of the constraints don't work. I think that's a huge problem, and it certainly does not help our ecosystem because it makes innovation more difficult. It prevents innovation, and I think the AI Act is really a counterexample of how you should do it. Other parts of the world should not follow that, and there may be a good intention, but then write it down on 10 pages that people actually understand, because it makes in its current form innovation more expensive, and this will reduce the return on investment, or certain innovations may not happen at all. They could be moving to other parts in the world. So it's really not a very positive example. But companies need to be aware of, if you serve clients in, I don't know, California, there are certain regulation. If you serve clients in the EU, there is different
Yeah.
regulation. And you need to be aware of this, otherwise you may get sued or face all sorts of and there is AI regulation in China too, by the way. It's not like that China is totally unregulated, but most of the regulation there addresses generative AI, in particular political content, because if your Gen AI model says some unpleasant sentences about President Xi or the party, this would lead to traumatic consequences that are possibly far more than a few percent of your annual revenue. And that's why DeepSeek, by the way, has all these filters, because they don't want to end up in this very difficult situation. So you need to look at the jurisdiction, and DeepSeek comes from China, so they have different filters than if you have a model that is based in California. But again, this also has a lot to do with culture and ethics. We talked about this before. And as I said, in mainland China, the consequences of a violation with regards to President Xi or the party could be way more severe than in the EU if you write something unfortunate about Miss von der Leyen.
Yeah, it's a bit. We can add that to our previous talk, like to add it as a challenge. Also, it's the way as you answer, you have to take it as a challenge, as a challenge. There's always a question I like to ask. It's more about the vision, and I wanted to check what do you think the trends are in monetization, AI, the trends, and where do you see, like, in the next 5 years, the biggest business opportunities, like, regarding your experience? I like it's more your vision on this topic. Very curious to know.
Well, open source is becoming ever more important. The DeepSeek thing was not necessarily a big win for China. It was rather a big win for open source, because it's also largely based on some technology in the stack that was, for example, released by Meta, which is a very pro-open source company. And DeepSeek, again, released a lot of the models and codes to the public domain. So, and eventually you can build obviously something on top of it that you don't release and make money. But open source is becoming ever more important, and then possibly smaller models too, to cut costs, possibly to have better outputs. That's something that decision makers are starting to understand, that just building ever larger models is not necessarily so helpful, but then we build smaller and more effective models. So these are some of the trends that I see. And well, I'm just very excited to see what will happen in the next few months. It's very hard to predict what will happen in the next 3 months. So it's more difficult to predict what may happen in the next 5 years.
Yeah, right. The time scale is so different, and so challenging at the same time. And you're right. Like, some models, like, as we were saying, like, getting back to our previous talk, like, today, it was like also on some we can have huge impact with small things. Same thing, we can use a small model that's not so complicated, so even not so much consuming. Like if we talk about energy, we talked about energy on a previous talk, like that doesn't consume so much energy, and that will do the job, as we say, like the job to be done, and it can be with simple things. And so I like that you raised that trend, and to have it in mind for everyone. Maybe simple models, more simple models will be in place that will even quicker to implement, and huge impact. So I think we need to seek that efficiency, and also to monetize that efficiency in the future.
Yeah. Before we move to the next point, just I need to remind our audience who watch our live, if you do have any questions, please add in the comments. We might take some questions at the end. As you said, that AI started to affect, or it's already affecting now multiple industries. It affects the data, it affects the energy, it affects climate. It even might affect blockchain and have some sort of integration between the AI and blockchain in the future. Based on your experience in quantum computing, how do you see its impact on AI monetization in the future, or how this could complement both industries, AI versus the quantum computing?
Yeah. First of all, we really live in a quantum world, and we've been surrounded by quantum devices for the last few decades. For example, you need quantum effects to make USB sticks or solid state drives work. So we all take advantage of quantum hardware in our phones, computers, whatever. That's something that a lot of people, even some physicists, don't know, by the way. But we need quantum effects to make all of these flash cells work. Now, quantum computing is another step in which we exploit quantum mechanical effects in order to solve certain computational problems substantially faster, meaning in a substantially better complexity class. Right now, this leads to a lot of investments. Quantum computers today are extremely limited in terms of the quantum bits, so the qubits, and we would need much more and much cheaper ones in order to make a lot of money out of this. To date, it's quite unclear when this may happen. Some people claim it's 2 or 3 years away, especially quantum computing startups that are looking for investors. I think it's further away, possibly decades, to build substantially larger quantum computers that are much cheaper. And it's not just an engineering problem, it's also a science problem, because I think the CEO of IBM said it's not a science problem, it's just an engineering problem. In fact, it's a science problem too. So this is something that is quite far away. And this one chip that Microsoft just published about, like this was something in the news 1 or 2 weeks ago. Well, I had a look at their publication. It's about 1 qubit, and then suddenly they want to come to millions of qubits, but no one knows how. And their publication lacks a lot of fundamental things like simple operations, quantum operations that they would run on the qubits or the different gates. Like in traditional computing, in binary computing, we have the NOT, the OR, and the AND gates. So there are other fundamental gates in quantum computing. I didn't see much about that in the paper, how they realized this and how they suddenly want to scale this to millions of qubits. I mean, if they have some secret to do this, I'd be most happy to see it, and it would definitely change the world. But there was little indication about all of this in the recent news for Microsoft. That's why I'm quite skeptical about what they published. If there is a secret and they make it available, obviously I'd be super happy. No.
So it's something you raise. Patrick would be happy. So get to Patrick on that. Great, but yeah, to kind of finish the talk, we went to your last words on before there's any question on what's your advice for business starting AI monetization, like your quick tips, advice on that that are looking to go deeper in just not spending for spending, but monetize it, and also if you can at the same time try to like a pro and like a cheat sheet available, like what's the mistakes, like key mistakes you see not to do?
Well, know when to use AI and when not to use AI. I think this is super important. And AI is not a silver bullet, and it will not magically solve all your problems. Um, AI is a tool, can be helpful for certain problems, but not helpful for other problems. So human intelligence first, and then the artificial intelligence. And then clear metrics, KPIs, what you want to improve in a process, and then solve it as simple as possible. If 2 or 3 rules are enough, just do it, and that's fine. Sometimes you may need more complex systems, and clearly look at the metrics. For example, in a lot of decision problems, maybe 95% accuracy is enough. You don't need 96. Maybe you need to spend millions more in order to make it from 95 to 96, but maybe the 95 can be achieved for 5 digits. Then that's possibly fine. So you need quite a different mindset. You need your skills from academia, but you need more. And if you're curious about all of this, take a look on YouTube on my Innovation Management for AI course.
Great. Thanks for like this wrapping up words, because I like you're very pragmatic, Patrick. I like that. And each time in our talk, we always have like great punchlines or tagline from our host is from our guest. It's like, as you say, human intelligence first, artificial intelligence after, because we need human intelligence to drive and to lead well artificial intelligence, which is, I will not go deep in it, but maybe one time, yeah, a little bit scared for the new generation is to use our brain, to use AI. This is what we do every day, but we're able to do that because we hustled the other way around. I'm just scared a little bit for the new generation to, if they not hustle on this kind of thing, because we know how to talk to even a simple model that ChatGPT, because talk to me that way or reply that way, because I know the problem. But if you don't tell him so clearly, that's where it's an issue. But it's a big topic. But thanks for raising that. Human intelligence first, artificial to use to artificial intelligence. Thanks, Patrick, for that.
Yeah. I think for me as well, the like could be the cut of this conversation is learn and understand what you should not use AI for. That's very important to know the limitations of the AI and the requirement of your solution you're trying to build or the problem you're trying to solve. AI might have the answer and might not. Accept this, and you have to deal with that. Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick, for this very rich conversation, very valuable insights. I'll be the first one to get this course you mentioned. That's very important for everyone who sees this live. Guys, this course is amazing. We'll add it to the comments of the live at Kugia
Yeah.
channels as well for anyone who would like to get more details about it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
so I'll be the second. If you use the first, I'll be the second.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll put it in comments. Put it in comments. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Great
Patrick.
talk,
Thank you
Patrick.
so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much for inviting me to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Wherever you are in the world.
Bye.
Good evening, good day, good morning, good night, whatever. Bye bye.